My name is Paige, and I'm a 37-year-old full-time housewife. Right now, I'm living a very happy life. But 5 years ago, I was completely depressed and defeated. At the time, I was 32 years old. I was living with my husband, Henry, who was a salaryman 5 years older than me. It had been 3 years since we got married, but I wasn't able to get pregnant and thought that it was strange, so I took a fertility test. The result was that there was nothing wrong with me. On the other hand, Henry said he was too lazy to go to the clinic and he refused to get tested. No matter how many times I tried to explain to him that an infertility test has to be taken by both husband and wife, he refused to listen. "It's you, of course there's no way anything wrong with me," and he wouldn't even try to get involved. And that night as well, Henry and I were getting into an argument about having children. Hey, the more that I think about it, the more I really think you should take the infertility test. You were the one that also said you wanted kids. In that case, then both of us should be getting tested.
Damn it, what a pain. But also, there's no way I would be the reason.
How can you say that if there's no way it could be you? What are you even basing that off of?
I don't need to base it off of anything. It obviously has to be your fault. I mean, first of all, you said your period was irregular lately, right?
Well, It's true my period hasn't been coming, but that was only recently. And I think that the stress of Henry and I not getting along recently was the cause of that.
See, look, so if it's your fault, and because you won't get pregnant, I have to keep getting bothered by my parents asking where their grandchildren are. And it's super annoying, alright? Sheesh. Even though it's your body's fault, stop dragging me into it.
Not only was Henry refusing to take an infertility test, he decided that it was my fault that we couldn't get pregnant, and that was already stressful. But if I asked him too much, then we were only getting more and more estranged, and it was a vicious cycle. That's what I thought. So after that, I decided to stop bringing up the infertility test completely. During that time, Henry was amazingly promoted to manager. When I heard the news, I was grateful from the bottom of my heart to Henry. But the next day in the evening, after Henry had become a manager, I got this phone call from him.
Oh, Paige, I'll be inviting some of my staff to our house tonight. So make sure you have some food and drink prepared. Thanks.
What? Tonight? That was all he said, and Henry hung up the phone on me. Even though I called him back and I sent him text messages, Henry ignored them all. The time was already 5:30 in the evening. Usually Henry would come home at around 7 o'clock at night, but does that mean he's telling me to prepare everything within an hour and a half? Luckily, there was a supermarket within a 5-minute walk from our place. I rushed to buy some food and alcohol, and I managed to prepare a dinner in time before Henry brought over a few of his staff members to our house. But what is this? The fried chicken is so soggy. Sir, is this what you're eating every day? I feel so bad for you, lol. Amongst the people that Henry brought to our house, there was this one young woman named Chelsea, and she kept complaining about every single dish that I had made. I wanted to kick this Chelsea out of our house as soon as possible. But they were all people from Henry's workplace, so of course I couldn't do that. I was getting irritated by myself when...
Yeah, that's right. This woman's such a failure as a wife. She's a good-for-nothing that can't even make children. The least you could do is make a decent meal.
What? To my disbelief, Henry was not only bashing me in front of everybody, but he also brought up my fertility. Even the other members of his staff looked shocked. They were all avoiding eye contact with me now. And the room was surrounded by a very awkward atmosphere. Everyone except for Chelsea, who had a different reaction. What was that? Did you say she can't make children and that's your wife? Wow, interesting. What? I was so shocked at her rudeness that I couldn't even get a word out. But then Chelsea spat out some even more outrageous words. Your wife. She's even ugly on the outside. You should just break up with her, sir. Chelsea looked at me right in the eye as she said that, and with an arrogant face, she stuck herself onto Henry. Henry also put his arm around Chelsea with a similarly arrogant look. I can imagine he was quite drunk already, and since he got promoted, his ego had gotten bigger. But I didn't think he was this terrible of a guy. This was infuriating, and it was at that moment.
Sir, Chelsea too.
There was a man named John who had been helping me all this time with the cooking and also serving the food, and he stood up before me.
Your wife, she prepared all of this for us in such a short time, but if you say such a thing, I think that's terrible. Shut up.
John seemed like he was quiet and a pushover, but he was doing his best to defend me. However, instead he was yelled at by Henry.
Huh? Are you trying to stand up against your manager?
That's hilarious! Do you think you're the knight in shining armor? You're not only ugly and fat, you're so disgusting! We're all just trying to have a good time here. What are you saying to our manager?
No, well, it's exactly as Chelsea says. You disgust me. I'm gonna have a think about firing you. Fire?
But sir, why did you even bring this guy here today?
He's pretty useful for pouring the drinks and carrying the food, isn't he? Well, it's just my useless wife by herself. She's not very smart, so it would have taken too long. But if you're going to say that, Chelsea, then you go home. Get out of my face.
John was suddenly told by Henry that he might be getting fired, and to go home. And he stood there in silence for a while.
I understand. Thank you for having me.
He said, and he looked like he was about to cry as he walked out the front door. Oh, I feel so bad for him. But also, what is with those two? That was way too horrible. I was so over it, but I didn't say anything, and silently went to the bedroom. I decided to leave those guys having their little party, and hurry up and get out of this house. I gathered my belongings into a suitcase, and just as I was about to walk out the front door when...
If you all go against me too, I'm going to fight you just like I did John. Do you hear me?
I heard Henry's voice, yelling and talking down to his other staff members. That guy, he's the worst! I was happy to be out of the house, but there was no more trains that would get me back to my parents' place. And so, I decided to go to the nearest pub while I looked for a nearby hotel that I could stay at for the night. However, to my shock, when I opened the door, I saw none other than John, sitting at the counter by himself and drinking a beer. I rushed over to him straight away. I'm terribly sorry about my husband earlier, and I apologized to him. The employee said, "Are you guys together?" And he showed me over to the seat next to John. John's bag was sitting there on the chair, but I happened to see a book poking out from the inside that had programming written on the back of it. Henry's job was in sales, so I imagined that John was also working in sales, but... John, are you also doing programming? Actually, my older brother is also doing that kind of work. When I asked him the question, as usual, John was answered a little hesitantly.
Yes. I always wanted to do programming, but I couldn't really get a job, so that's why I'm where I am now. Sales is what I'm worst at, but I was just told I would be fired, but I had already been thinking about resigning, even when I was at the company. I just get harassed by Mr. Henry and Miss Chelsea, so...
I thought he was just a pushover, but whenever he was talking about programming, John was really lively through his stutters, and I could tell that he had a lot of goals of his own. And as I was talking to John, it made me realize that I need to get myself together too. If I stay with such a garbage husband like that, then I am truly helpless. Tomorrow, I'm going to serve Henry with divorce papers and I'm going to leave the house. The next day, I went to the city office to get divorce papers. And when I came back home, "Oh, Miss Wife, you came back?" I heard Chelsea's voice as she came over to the front door. Oh, this woman. Don't tell me she stayed here last night.
What's the matter, sweet Chelsea?
And Henry followed after her to the front door. When he saw my face, he grinned and then he said this.
Where the hell are you? When the staff of the master of the house were here for dinner, you left and didn't even do your duties. You You are a failure as a wife. I don't need someone useless like you. We're getting a divorce. Get out. And I'm going to get remarried to Chelsea.
Henry was laughing as he said that, and he pulled Chelsea closer into him while looking at me. Oh, Henry, last night was so fun, wasn't it? Wife, take that, lol. Ugh, these two. I slammed down the divorce papers that I had gotten from the city office onto the floor of the front door, and I stormed out. And then I asked John to meet me for lunch, and after I spoke to him about everything, I went back to my parents' house. I brought John with me. That's because I wanted to get back at that garbage Henry and that empty-headed woman Chelsea. That's why. 5 years later, when that actually happened, I couldn't help but to hold my belly and laugh out loud. Well, as for what happened with those two after that, let me tell you the story now. My divorce from Henry was finalized, and I received a very small settlement fee. 5 years after that, I received a phone call from a public phone booth number. I was wondering who it could be, as I reluctantly picked up the phone.
Hello, Paige? It's me, Henry.
That irritating voice that I never wanted to hear again. After all these years, he's calling me. What on earth does he want? I didn't say a word, and I hung up the phone. But after that, I got a phone call after phone call multiple times from the phone booth number. This is so annoying! I decided to answer, to yell at him once and for all, but then...
Paige, please, don't hang up. Please listen. I want to start over with you.
That's what Henry said. Huh? When I heard those words, I stopped right in my tracks. As I stayed silent, Henry just started blabbering on his own.
After I got remarried to Chelsea, that woman won't do any chores around the house. She doesn't even clean, and she won't even go to the groceries. And she doesn't even know how to do the laundry. And yet, she goes off and buys her own bags and shoes without even looking at the price. On top of all that, her food is disgusting. She doesn't even know how to make rice. And above all else, she was also a woman that can't get pregnant. She spends money recklessly, and she even borrowed money from a sketchy loan company without telling me. And now they're even chasing after me. They caught her, and apparently they sent her off to a terrifying country doing terrifying work. Ever since then, they stopped coming after me, but I got fired from my company. Please, Paige, help me. I don't even have a place to live right now, and you're the only person I can rely on. As soon as my friends and family found out that I was being chased by black market debt collectors, they cut off all ties with me.
Huh, interesting. Is that so? Without thinking, a smile came across my face, and this is what I said to him. Interesting. What goes around comes around, so take that.
Wait a minute. That was my bad. Master Page, please, I'm begging you, help me.
Help you?
Please help me.
Tomorrow, wait for me at the cafe next to the train station from the apartment we used to live in, 3 p.m.
But I have a shift at that time.
Huh? You say something?
3 p.m., right? Yes, ma'am.
So the next day, at 3 p.m. as promised, when I arrived at the cafe, Henry was already there. But he looked so old and weathered, to the point where I barely even recognized him. Until he called out for me, I was actually thinking he was a homeless person in the cafe.
But Paige, it's exactly as I spoke to you on the phone. Right now, I'm sleeping in the park, and first, just let me borrow some money to at least rent a room.
Henry started apologizing and bowing down to me. So I said this in response. Huh? I never said anything about helping you, though. Henry let out a stupid sound when at that moment, I heard the sound of the cafe doors opening, and both Henry and I looked towards the entrance.
Wait a minute.
Henry's jaw was on the floor. That's because the person standing there was John. But he had lost a lot of weight and had made a complete transformation into a handsome man.
Long time no see.
You see, John is working at my brother's company right now as a programmer. He's a managing director there.
Managing director? Well, after working under my brother-in-law, I was able to finally gain some confidence myself. Back then I was a super loser, but my diet and work have both been going well. So I'm more confident now. Every day I'm the happiest I've ever been. Because Paige and I are about to welcome our second child soon. Second child? Wait, did you just say with Paige?
Henry's jaw dropped again, and he started yelling. So I shoved the maternity sticker on my bag into his face. And then I also showed him the wedding rings on both my left hand and John's left hand.
No way, but how did you all people get my ex-wife? Paige was my last and only hope, but wait, does that mean the infertility was my fault?
I was always saying that from the very beginning, you idiot! Henry broke down sobbing on the spot. I was finally able to show him how happy we were to his face, and wow, I felt so refreshed.
Paige, it's almost pickup time at the preschool now.
Oops, you're right. Well, then, goodbye. I hope you figure out how to live. Bye-bye.
I will be treasuring Paige forever and ever. No way. Wait, please. Please, at least just let me borrow a little bit of money. Whoa!
Henry caught his leg on the chair of the cafe and fell over. Henry was screaming and crying as he kept slamming his fists onto the floor. After that, apparently, Henry went to his other former staff to try and beg to borrow money. But that guy was John's former colleague. And that's how I found out that apparently Henry had borrowed money from a shady black money loan company just like Chelsea, and he was shipped off to a country somewhere in Africa. It sounds like he's being forced to do some pretty intense work over there, and he's living every day like he wants to die. I imagine this is his punishment for being so terrible to people back then. Well then, as for me, I'm living very happily with my daughter, John, and the baby in my belly. That reminds me, the other day when John came home from work.
I'm home.
Welcome home! Dinner is ready for you.
What? How are you feeling? I keep telling you that I can do all the chores around the house.
It's fine. Plus, I'm feeling really good today.
Paige, the only reason I'm so happy now and the reason I was able to change is all thanks to you, Paige. Thank you.
What are you saying? It's all because you worked really hard, John. But you know, the most important parts of you, John, haven't changed at all. You're still so thoughtful and you always do what's right. I should be the one thanking you for giving me so much happiness. I look forward to being happy as a family of 4. Thank you for watching! What kind of crazy people will we get to see next? Stay tuned for more!